All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking India's brand new geopolitical reality. We're in a world that's getting more chaotic and confrontational by the day, and for a rising power like India, the old, quiet road to the top? Well, it's completely gone. Let's break down what that really means.
This quote right here, it really says it all. For decades, if you were a nation on the rise, there was a clear playbook, a template for success. But as you're about to see, that playbook hasn't just been updated, it's been torn to shreds.
So, what was this old template everyone talks about? Well, it was basically a strategy of silence. You'd keep your head down, you'd focus laser-like on growing your economy, you'd stay out of big global fights, and you'd let your economic power do all the talking for you. I mean, China is the perfect example. They mastered this, quietly growing into a behemoth over many, many years.
But here's the catch. That whole strategy only works if the world is stable and predictable. And that is not the world we live in anymore. The global system that allowed for that quiet growth has pretty much shattered. Now it's fragmented, it's full of tension, and it's forcing countries like India to figure out a much, much tougher path forward.
Okay, so this brings us to the first massive challenge, the West. According to our sources, India is finding that its so-called traditional partners are becoming a huge source of unpredictable and, frankly, sometimes painful geopolitical pressure.
50%. Just let that number sink in for a second. This, according to the sources, represents a massive geopolitical shockwave that came flying from Washington, D.C. straight to New Delhi, a surprise tariff the U.S. just slapped on Indian goods. But where in the world did it come from?
So how do you even get to a 50% tariff? Well, it started with a 25% general tariff. But then, the U.S. added another 25% on top of that as a penalty because India was buying Russian oil. The sources we're looking at describe this less as a thought-out policy and more as a bullying tactic. Basically, an ego-driven move designed to force India's hand in some really sensitive trade talks.
And this is where the real frustration starts to boil over. Analysts are pointing to what they see as a glaring double standard. While the U.S. was penalizing an Indian refinery for its ties to Russian oil, America itself was still importing Russian uranium. And at the same time, the EU was buying up more than half of Russia's liquefied natural gas. So you can see why a lot of people are asking, are we playing with two different sets of rules here? But pressure from the West is only one side of the coin. At the exact same time, India is staring down another, even more direct challenge from its massive rival to the east. China isn't just growing anymore, it's actively trying to put a lid on India's ambitions with a really sophisticated, multi-front strategy.
So you gotta ask, what's driving all this? What's China's motivation? Well, for one, it's trying to stop the China Plus One movement, where companies start looking for manufacturing bases outside of China. Plus, with its own economy hitting some speed bumps, Beijing desperately needs to lock down export markets. But the big picture goal? It's to stop any other major power from rising in Asia and challenging its dream of a unipolar Asia, where Beijing makes all the rules.
And make no mistake, this isn't just talk. Sources are pointing to a very real and deliberate playbook. On the military front, China's helping develop air bases like Laumonerhat in Bangladesh. Diplomatically, it's building new regional clubs and making sure India doesn't get an invitation. It's even getting into manufacturing sabotage, reportedly pressuring key engineers to leave Indian factories, and it's trying to squeeze India's access to critical materials. It's a full-court press designed to box India in.
Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, you have to look at a map. That airbase in Bangladesh isn't just some random spot. It's dangerously close to India's Siliguri corridor, a piece of land often called the chicken's neck. It is an incredibly thin, incredibly vital strip of land that connects the main part of India to its northeastern states. Having a potentially hostile airbase right there, that is a massive security headache. So let's put it all together. You've got an unpredictable ally on one side and a very assertive rival on the other. This puts India in an incredibly tough spot, forced to perform this high-stakes tightrope walk. It has to figure out a whole new way forward in a world that, honestly, doesn't seem to have any rules anymore.
And this brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway, and it's captured perfectly in this quote. Basically, for India to succeed economically and technologically, it has to get its foreign policy and its geopolitics right first. The two are completely linked now. You just can't build your economy while ignoring the massive geopolitical storms raging around you.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's a huge strategic shift. That old stance of strategic silence, staying neutral, not interfering, doing things behind the scenes, that's out the window. It's being replaced by what you could call assertive engagement. That means calling out hypocrisy when you see it, actively protecting your own interests and building all kinds of different alliances, not just with your traditional partners.
And look, this isn't just some theory for the future. We're seeing India put this new playbook into action right now. It's publicly calling out the US on those double standards, it's building stronger relationships with non-Western partners through groups like BRICS, and it's even having direct, high-level talks with China because it knows that you have to engage, even when you have serious problems.
All of this leaves us with one final and absolutely critical question. The old rulebook for how to become a global power has been ripped to pieces. So in a world that seems to be making things up as it goes along, the biggest challenge, and maybe, just maybe, the biggest opportunity for India is this: can it write its own?